Hi, welcome to my video on finding a pattern in the product of the two binomials. This is part 2. The previous video was part 1. You learned that the n number on the end of a trinomial comes from the product. The middle number or term, which is the x, comes from the sum. And also, if this binomial has two like signs, then the product is positive at the end. If the binomial has a product has opposite signs, then the product at the end is a negative. Let's practice further. Now we're going to put a little different slant, but the same thing. Find the sum and the product of each trinomial in relation to the product of the two binomials. Let's do some examples. The sum. In this trinomial, in the previous video, we found that this number right here came from the sum of the products of the outside and inside terms. So the sum is a 4. And that was the product of the last terms, which was a 3. So S is for sum and P is for product. In this one, the sum is -6, the product is 8. The sum is 6, the product is -7. The sum is -3, the product is -18. Let's practice. So you pause your video and see if you can get the answers to the 8 of these correct. And the sum is 7, product 12. Sum -9, product 14. Sum 4, product -5. Sum -9, product -10. Sum 10, product 21. Sum -8, product -20. And sum is 11, product -12. Sum -12, product 11. You say, well, that's pretty good. But remember, just look back at this one. This sum came from the product of the outside terms and the inside terms of the binomial, adding up those together to get the 7. And the number on the end is the product of the last terms of the binomial. So S is for sum, P is for product. And that you will see over and over again. Just keep it in mind. There we go. Now, if the first term of a trinomial is x squared, which is what we're looking at all the time, because remember when we multiplied on the previous video, x times x was x squared. Every term had an x squared at the beginning, every trinomial. So if we assume that, then we're looking at a trinomial that's x squared with a bx and a c. That means, let's practice now, sum and product. So if that's the sum, so we have an x squared, and the sum is 6, so that's a plus 6x, and the product is 8, because the sum is with the x, and the product is with the constant. So the sum is 3, so we got x squared plus 3x minus 10. We got an x squared, sum is -12, so it's -12x, and the product is 11. The sum is -1, so it's an x squared minus 1, the 1 is understood, minus 6. So if the sum is in the middle and the product is at the end with an x squared, there's a trinomial that has a sum and this product. So work the 8 of these out to see if you're going to get the correct answers. Again, each trinomial will have an x squared as its first term. So if I put an x squared on every one of these, you're going to see that I'm working with the trinomial. If the sum is 6, so that's plus 6x, product is 9. Sum is -4, -4x minus 12. Sum is -12x, product is 20. Sum is 13, so I got an x squared plus 13x minus 30. Sum is -8, so I got an x squared minus 8x, product is 15. And again, just to remind you, we have an x squared in each of these at the beginning, and the sum is 16, and the product is -17. Sum is -9, product is plus 22. Sum is negative 10, put an X with it, and the product is negative 11. So we've just reversed what we did, but that by reversing it, it just helps us memorize or learn what the pattern is. Let's go to the next page. Well, the general form of a trinomial that you'll see written down is ax squared plus bx plus c. That's the general form of a trinomial. A, b, and c, x squared, x, and a constant. That you will see over and over again in the math that you're going to learn in the future. So, if that be the case, let's let a equal 1. So I'm going to put a 1 in the place of a. So a is 1. So there it is. And we know that if a is 1, 1x squared is the same as an x squared. So that brings us back to the equation or the polynomial that we written down just then. X squared plus bx plus c. So notice there's a 1 here, because when we multiplied the binomials in the previous video, we always had an x squared. So we're talking about when x squared is 1. And that's important for now. In the next factoring 2, which is the next series of videos you're going to do, then the a won't be 1. But right now, this leading coefficient right here will be a 1 all the time for this set of videos. That means that if you look at this x squared plus bx plus c, b is the sum. Yeah, you say that's okay. And c is the product. Yeah, that makes sense. X squared plus this number, that's the sum of the binomial term. That's the product of the binomial terms. You say, okay, yeah. So hence, the sum is the b, and the product is the c. So you'll see this occasionally, working it through the math, when you get doing more math later on in quadratics or cubics and polynomials in grade 12 or grade 11. You'll see this coming through. So I'm explaining it now. As my math topic says, I'm fully explaining how this is working and why it's working. Because if it makes sense now and you can work it out, then it'll be easier later. And that's the goal of my doing my units, developing an understanding. In this trinomial, the sum is in the middle, is a 3. The product is at the end, 2. So that b is 3, c is 2, because that's b and c. Sum is negative 4, product is 3. So the b is negative 4, and product is c, 3. Sum is negative 1, product is negative 6. B is negative 1, c is negative 6. Sum is 9, product is negative 10. So b is 9, c is negative 10. And you can almost think of it as b and c. B is before c in the alphabet. So that's b, that's c. Remember, that was an a, but the a, we made a1. So that's b and c. That's first and that's second. Negative 6, 8. That's negative 6 and 8. So practice the 10 of these to see if you're going to get them right. Pause the video, work them out, press play. Sum is 9, product is 8. So that's a 9 and an 8. Sum is negative 7, product is 10. So B and C, negative 7 and 10. B is the sum, C is for the product. So that's a 5 and a negative 14. So that's 5, negative 14. Negative 19, negative 20 that's the sum, that's the product, that's the B, and that's the C. And we have a 14 and a 13, so 14, 13. Again, that's the sum, that's the product, that's the B, and that's the C. Negative 3, negative 18. Negative 3, negative 18. That's a 2, negative 15. 2, negative 15. The sum is negative 6, middle term. The last term is negative 16, that's the product. And that's a B and a C, that's negative 6, negative 16. B is the sum, C is the product. And we have a 5 and a 6 for sum and product, 5 and 6 for B and C. And the last one, we have a negative 10 for sum, 25 for product, so that gives us negative 10 and a 25, because B is sum, C is product. Just to make sure, sum is the B, product is the C. And remember, the product comes from multiplying the last terms of the binomial, and the sum comes from getting the sum of the product of the outside and the product of the inside added together. So that's developing a pattern to get us ready to do the factoring and understand what we're doing. That takes us to the end of this video, and if you like it, click the like button. If you're not a subscriber, you want to subscribe, click the subscribe button and click the notification bell, because there's more videos coming your way. And write a comment if you're a subscriber. And visit my math website, mathfullyexplained.com. 3 sections: me, my degrees and teaching experience. The video section tells us about the teaching strategies you're going to use to help you learn your math. And the content section has the topics and the number of videos on each topic. And the black font is what's online right now. And the red font what will be there in the near future. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.